Bizperation is the podcast for leaders, dreamers, and entrepreneurs that want to work on purpose and be inspired in life and business. I'm Christy Jackson, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, and I'm passionate about helping you succeed. And if no one else has told you today, you are needed. So I'm bringing you podcast episodes with real lessons and strategy that you can use today.
Hey, have you heard of Local Search? Well, this is your fastest growing nationwide directory for Black-owned businesses. Make sure you share with your friends and list your own business. You can do so by visiting our website at www.localsearch.com. And make sure you download our app. It's available in the Apple App Store as well as Google Play Store. Thank you so much for the support. And remember, buy local.
Neal Richardson, welcome to the Bizperation Podcast. Thanks so much for joining me today. You know, we were just kind of talking about our path to here. You know, we've been hearing through community, our community involvement that we needed to connect. And so
definitely
all these years later,
right. Yeah, man.
We made it happen. So I'm so glad to be able to chat with you today.
Yeah, I'm happy I finally earned enough credibility to be able to be your associate.
Oh, for goodness sake. Okay, well, I don't even know how to respond to that because I'm sitting here thinking the exact same thing. I told you, I'm reading through your bio and, I always like to let guests, kind of share about themselves because, you know what's up and what's present for you right now and what you're most excited to share. So I don't want to just read your bio. I want people to hear from you, who you are, what's your story and why you're here. So can you just kind of tell just a little bit about you, Neal, and before we kind of get into more of the conversation?
Yeah, no, I'm extremely excited. Thank you again for inviting me on to this podcast, and to many of your listeners. Very excited to be able to share the mission of Dream Builders for Equity. And in order to do that, I have to really tell about my story, my personal story, because really the premise and the purpose of Dream Builders is to be able to support youth and communities in which reflect the places that I grew up and the people that I grew up around. And so that's kind of how Michael Woods, who's the other co-founder of Dream Builders for Equity, and I started Dream Builders is really about that mission of being able to serve communities of color and students that come from low income communities and households. So I grew up in the Lewis Place neighborhood. My parents bought a house back in 1986, which is, if many people don't know about Lewis Place, it's one of the first neighborhoods where Black families actually began to purchase homes. I used to say that's the first community where we were allowed to purchase homes, but that wasn't even the case at that time. When African Americans were purchasing homes, we were not allowed to. We had to do some negotiations with other community members that already had homes and some allies.
The movie The Banker.
Oh man,
right? That story, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they had to maneuver around the system a little bit to get in the system. And start to get into the economic flow and start to build wealth. And so that neighborhood is very near and dear to my heart. But growing up in that community, I actually was part of the desegregation program where I was bused out to the Rockwood School District. So I attended middle school at Rockwood South Middle School, and then I went on to Lafayette High School, where once I graduated, actually, I still had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And the only thing I knew about college was there was a college on the street that my parents lived, and that was Rankin Technical College. And so my college is actually closer than my high school, much closer. And so I used to walk down to college every day, walk down to school at Rankin, and got my associate's degree in electrical control systems. But at the time when I was graduating, it wasn't really still my passion. It was really focused on like, how can I get a job? That's what it was all about, is how can I get a good paying job? And, but it wasn't my passion. And so once I graduated from Rankin, I said, I want to go to business school. I always had a passion for business, had a passion for finance. I love math. And so I applied to Webster University, and they said they would accept all of my credits. And so I would only have to take my major courses would be solely focused on business. So I was excited about that. And so I actually ended up going to Webster University to get my bachelor's in business administration. And during that time period, actually, my sister, this is before the recession, my sister was purchasing homes. So I have a sister who's 13 years older than I am. And she's my only sibling, but she is a great mentor to me. And she doesn't have a college education, but she's always just been a grinder and a hustler and making things happen. Yeah. And so she was an investor in real estate. And so I was cleaning out one of her houses with her and helping her get some things settled. And then the next day in class, one of my professors asked about, what are your interests? Like, they asked every student, what are your interests? Because they were looking to place us in internships. And I was like, real estate. Real estate is my interest. I love real estate. Yeah. Actually, the only experience I had was cleaning out my sister's house that she was renting out. Yeah. And but I like to tell that story because that actually changed the trajectory of my life in a lot of ways. That small moment. And I ended up getting an internship at it was called Cushman & Wakefield now. It used to be Colliers, Charlie Moore & Tucker. It's a commercial real estate firm. One of the top commercial real estate firms, and I started as a research intern. And so that was a great experience, just getting familiar with the corporate setting. That was my first time, going into an office space and really getting to be a professional. And so I had to adjust and learn how to show up, in a professional manner. And from there, I actually got my bachelor's degree. And once I got my bachelor's degree, I ended up getting a full-time job as a lease administrator, then moving into property management in their medical center facilities that they manage. So Barnes and Christian Northeast and Christian Northwest, I was doing property management there. But I always had a passion for brokerage. I wanted to be a commercial real estate broker. And my one of the brokers there, I had built a good relationship with. At the time they had no African American brokers within that firm, and so he kind of took me under his wing. And he actually left to go to Jones Lang LaSalle, and he said, I have an opportunity. I'm looking for young people that are willing to kind of cut their teeth in the industry. And I followed them over to Jones Lang LaSalle, and then the market just kind of crashed. At the moment, the real estate market crashed, and coming in as a unknown entity in real estate sales was very tough. Even the most experienced real estate brokers and agents were not reaching some of their traditional goals. And it was a salary. It was a commission base, so it wasn't salary at all. And so it was a tough time for me because I was just graduating undergrad, had not got fully settled. And so I actually moved in with my sister and lived in her basement for about 6 months. And I said, I need to figure this out. And I ended up going to get my master's degree in business administration. I'm gonna use this time to just better myself in my education. And from there, I ended up getting a job at U.S. Bank Community Development Corporation. Again, having some experience in real estate gave me a leg up, but I had no experience in community development or tax credit financing. So when I came in, I learned about tax credit financing. I learned about community development. And what I learned is that we were making investments in low to moderate income communities. And, I thought that was great. But I also still seeing the same challenges that I see today in my community, Lewis Place, for example, that these communities are on the decline. And while, there are large institutions that are benefiting from these investments, or the people in those communities better off because we made those investments. And so, again, learning about new market tax credits, starting off as an analyst, kind of cutting my teeth there, moving up to underwriting some of those new market deals, and then working as an assistant director of our asset management group. It really gave me a breadth of experience across our entire portfolio at U.S. Bank CDC, from new market tax credits to affordable housing, low-income housing tax credits, renewable energy, all of those great things. And with that experience, it helped me see what's possible when investment is made in our communities around the real estate. But again, I still wasn't seeing that wealth that was really truly being built for those community members. And so when Mike Woods came to me and said, we should start a nonprofit organization that gives back to youth that's in the community, the most vulnerable. And I said, that's great. And we've heard so many great organizations out there that's doing terrific things. And we said, so what's unique? What will be unique about what we do? And what we said is that we want to give ownership to those students. We want to give ownership to those community members. We want them to not just invest their time with us, but to actually earn something for themselves to be able to build a brighter future and a healthier future for themselves, for their families, and for their communities. And so the idea was kind of percolating, and we was like, we can really do something around real estate, giving the students the opportunity to earn money while working on the real estate project itself, but then also being able to build wealth. And so the students actually have ownership in the property. Many of the students that we work with, their parent, they don't live in a household where their parent actually owns the home, they're renting. And so they don't have that mindset of ownership. They don't have that mindset of, I want to help improve the overall community, because when I invest in this community, when I cut my grass, when I make sure the neighbor's grass is cut, that ultimately helps raise the value of the community at large. And ultimately, I build wealth from that. I have something invested into that. And so when we change that mindset, I think we'll see a change in the communities, especially our Black communities around the city of St. Louis. And I think that's a powerful message. But then another great piece of it is being able to tell your story around your life. The platform that you're building is allowing our students to talk about their challenges, talk about the stresses that they deal with every day, but also how they plan to make an impact moving forward and why their lives really matter to them. And I think that's something that a narrative that's being perpetuated is that we don't care about ourselves, and our youth don't care about ourselves because we're killing each other, and we hear the stories about that. But our students do value themselves, and they do value their community, and we have to also give them something to value. And so that's what our organization is truly about, is giving our students a voice, giving them value, helping them see value in themselves, helping them see values in their families and in their communities. And then they want to give that value out. They want to invest. They want to do more. And I always tell my students all the time, when you add value unto the world will add value unto you. And I think that is like a perpetual circle there. It's like once you add value, then value is brought back to you, then you continue to invest, and it comes back over time. So it kind of compounds. And I'm hoping that that mission, that focus begins to expand and ripple within our communities at large. And so today, as an organization, we served over 60 students in the last 3 years. We've invested probably close to $500,000 within these different communities. Our students themselves, from between the book publishing, the sales of the house, and the wages they've earned, they've earned between $250,000 to $300,000 as well. And so these students are reaping the benefits of it, and they're seeing it immediately. And so I think that is some of the challenges with our communities and our mindset around investing, is that we want to see a return quick, but that isn't always the case of course.
Yeah.
But we want to get them excited about it and help them see those quick wins that they've earned. And then that if they continue to invest longer term, they'll see this transformational change happen within their lives and within their communities. And so Mike and I are really focused on not just doing one house at a time, but transforming one community. And so we are partnering with the Hyde Park Neighborhood Association. This year, we're planning to invest $800,000 in that community and do 5 properties. We're currently partnering with Fatima Muhammad on her apiary at the park project. And we have 3 properties that we're currently in the process of rehabbing. And we plan to do also some home repairs for the elders in that community. So we just received a grant for that. So we're just moving. We're just excited about continuing to see progress. And it's hard. It's a challenge from getting our 501c3 to invest, learning how to run a nonprofit, setting up our board, understanding how we actually go from just raising grant funding to earning revenue as an organization to sustain our organization and our operations. It's been quite a challenge, and I know this is an entrepreneurship podcast. So I want to make sure that was clearly voiced, is that even though we've had some successes, the challenges to ink out those wins has been, sometimes it felt insurmountable, but we just have to continue to grind every day and have faith in ourselves and faith in God that we can make it through, because we feel like this is very purposeful and divine work.
Let me just take all this in because I mean, there are so many connections here, and what you're doing, first of all, let me just say, is phenomenal. And I agree with you that this is divine. It's transformational. It's critical to, our community. It's critical to these youth. You talked about, trajectory shifts, and you are literally, that was actually a question on my page. See, when these conversations are ordained, get these before you even ask the questions, but it is so real. And what you're doing is just amazing, to be able to have access to this education at such a young age. Just having that education is amazing and awesome to be able to own it, but to have that educational piece about really understanding investment can take us even further. And so that was phenomenal and transformational for our family, what he was able to do. But just think about what those kiddos in your program are going to be able to do, because they have more knowledge and they have mentors like yourself that are walking them through. Because really, isn't it just knowing, really what's going on behind the scenes? It's just giving that little hit up, that leg up that, we don't have, because we're not in the seats of influence where the information is being dispersed. And so it's just amazing to have you and your, co-founder in that spot that's just committed to doing this work to transform our community. So I love this. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, can I learn how to, build a house, invest in a house? Like, these are still essential workers during the pandemic, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a sustainable craft, right? This is a sustainable career, that these youth can have. So, I mean, just hats off to you. And I'm telling you, just amazing how every step has purpose, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, every step of it. I mean, every block that was built was made for the stepping stone to the next block, and I just keep building every time. And it's every time I get better, every time I get smarter, every time I become more wise. But it's been a journey though. Like, it has been a journey, and I know we still have much further to go. But even today, it's been quite a journey to get to where we are, and even where I'm at in my life. And so it takes a lot of sacrifice. It takes a lot of faith. It takes a lot of confidence. But you want to doubt yourself every day, every step of the way, and you have to put your foot out there and step out on faith in a lot of ways. So it's tough. It's tough to do it, but it's very rewarding though when it's successful.
Yeah. And I really appreciate your transparency with that, because people say, they want to become entrepreneurs because they don't want a boss. They don't want to have to answer to anybody. And it's like, you're going to have more bosses than one as an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur. Man. And if you can't self-manage, and if you don't have, confidence and that thick skin to be able to persevere through those challenging times, I'm telling you, it is going to be quite a mountain, to overcome. So that's awesome. Yeah. But entrepreneurship really is about, identifying those opportunities, right? And that jump in and solve problems. So I want to ask you, what opportunities are we missing with supporting youth during this quarantine time?
Supporting youth during the quarantine time? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously there's a large digital divide that we have in the country and in the city of St. Louis. And so making sure they have access to data, making sure they have the proper technology, whether it's iPads or a laptop or things that they need in order to conduct their educational work, but also to continue to find job opportunities and network and build relationships with people like you and I. I mean, they don't have that opportunity right now because they're isolated in their homes or even in their neighborhoods. And I think if we are able to give them access to technology in the right way and helping influence those things, I think that's the biggest key, is trying to see how we can make data and technology more equitable too, because that's important, especially during this time. And I know one thing that we've done at Dream Builders is we've taken some of our courses online. So we've had a few of our contractors do Facebook Live tutorials with our students. And so our students tune in and they ask questions to the contractors, and then we give the students a stipend for their time, just so they can, take care of themselves. And for a lot of them, they don't even have the access to like the lunches that they typically have or the breakfasts that they typically have. So that's provided through the school system. So we understand those stipends are critically important for those students, but also we want to give them some educational information with those stipends as well. So I think that's just making sure that we're checking in on our students, asking them what do they need, how can we help them. I mean, I think that's the biggest aha moment that we've had is our students in our program. They enjoy it so much because we respect them as people. We respect their voice. And I think the unique thing about our program is really built around them. So if they give us feedback to say, this wasn't really working, or this partner that you brought in really didn't connect with us, we evaluate that and we change our curriculum, we change our partnerships, we change our model to fit them because that's who we serve. And so I think sometimes you just have to listen to the youth about what they need and what are their challenges. And they'll articulate it to you very well instead of us making assumptions around what they need. So just really listening to them is a piece of advice.
Yeah. I mean, with this quarantine, and I love what you're saying about technology. I'm working with Maryville University, on this, tech talent gaps and, what we can do to fill those and provide more support, in our community for readiness and, this tech in the tech fields. But, I love what you're saying about, just this access to technology. It truly is an issue, but it truly is an opportunity because now the barriers to, connecting with people, you can hop online, right? And so I'm just thinking about mentors now that the youth would have more access to, if we just kind of, stay connected, ask how we can serve and how we can support. And it can be as simple as just jumping on a Zoom call, with a neighbor, with a family, to say, what can I do to help? What questions can I answer? So I love to see how people are sort of reaching out, across organizations to partner in unique ways, through this, and really just checking in on neighbors, just staying more connected. I mean, I noticed that I've been on more actual phone calls than I would have been. Like, I'm not that one to talk on the phone, right? Like, I'm like an emailer, but I'm talking to people, and
no, that's good.
We need that that human connection. Right.
For sure, definitely.
Yeah. So I mean, we're all making pivots in one way or another, and so have you found any pivots that have been unexpected that you've had to make, and maybe in with Dream Builders, but also with your work with U.S. Bank?
Yeah, I mean, with the thing about U.S. Bank, I didn't get a chance to finish the story there. I feel like I was just talking too much. I had to give you some time back to open up the floor. So at U.S. Bank, after becoming the assistant director of our asset management group, I actually went on because of my work at Dream Builders, was actually positioned to be the head of our financial education strategy at U.S. Bank. So across our 70,000 employee organization, the fifth largest bank in the country is really focused on driving financial education and financial inclusion, and a lot of that work around financial education. So that was a great opportunity for me, and I think I did a pretty good job in the time I was in that role. But the key to that though was it set, again, those building block moments. It set me up for the next stage where we started U.S. Bank CDC started a group that's focused on business impact, which is really focused on how do we drive social impact through our investments. Some of those things that I was talking about earlier around we're making investment in these communities, but how is it really moving the needle for the people that live in these communities? And our strategy that we focused on is, because a high majority of the population in these communities are people of color, we need to create greater access to capital. We need to create and invest into developers of color that can build in these communities that reflect the population of those communities. So within that team that I started, we developed a racial equity agenda that's really focused on driving investment through all of our financial tools to push the needle forward on racial equity. And so we've been really investing differently, looking at projects differently, assessing them based on, will this investment actually have a positive impact on people of color within those communities? And then we have measurements behind that to hold our organization accountable to those measurements. And so that is like a very powerful thing to be able to leverage billions of dollars of capital to invest in communities in a more responsible way, which I think is very rewarding for me. It's very hard work because this still is a white-led institution. It still is a bank. It still is a financial industry. There's still many systematic issues that we're trying to break down and address. But we are intentional about trying to address those things. And I think that is the greatest achievement to date outside of Dream Builders, because Dream Builders always is like my pride and joy, but my greatest professional feat is really being able to drive this organization forward, invest differently. I'm not sure if I don't know if you follow me on Facebook or not, Christy, but I just posted the commitment we made of $50 million to CDFIs during the PPP payment protection program. And so it was my group that was really behind, how do we invest that into minority-led CDFIs? Because we know if we invest in minority-led CDFIs, ultimately that money will get to minority-led and minority-owned businesses. So that investment of $50 million was intentional in that way to address racial equity. And we're continuing to expand those opportunities. So I feel very fortunate to be in the position to have that type of influence, but it's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. And so just, during the COVID-19 crisis at U.S. Bank, it's become even more evident of the gaps in healthcare, the gaps in access to capital, and testing and all of those things. It just shows another proof point of how low-income communities, people of color, are always disproportionately impacted in a negative way during times of crisis in this country. And I think if we can be intentional about doing some of that work now and then continue to expand it, so these outcomes don't continue to be the reality during these time periods, I think that is critically important as well. So again, that's why, it's COVID-19 from a financial industry standpoint. I'm really trying to push forward to say, how can we raise awareness of the challenges that people of color are facing, Black people are facing in America during this time? And then how do we use our tools, our financial tools, our education, in order to get them the resources they need? Because that should be where we're focusing our attention at this time, because those are the most vulnerable communities. And if we lose that core of really this country, which is, Black people, from our dollar to our media, to our marketing, to our music, to our entertainment, to even some of the contributions that we've made across the board. I'm not gonna name them all, but that's a huge part of the growth of America. And if we don't represent that and understand that, then we will never be seen as valuable. And so we have to invest in that. And so, again, I think that's important from more of a systematic global level. So that's my systematic work that I'm trying to do long term. And Dream Builders is like, how can I influence the next generation of kids to go out and get it themselves? So it's kind of, I'm living in a perfect situation right now for me, but it's not easy on either side. Yeah.
Well, I want to personally thank you for your commitment to the work. As a woman of color, as an entrepreneur, again, your reputation has preceded you. The work that you're doing with integrity, with, honor, that you are really doing this to make a difference, and, not just to fill a seat or to add, another opportunity to your resume. So thank you. I truly, this is phenomenal what you do. And the fact that you're able to manage both of these at the same time is mind blowing to me, because what you're doing is critical on both sides. It's critical and deep work on both sides. So, I want to make sure that, people can, connect with you, to follow you, what you're doing, support Dream Builders, to, get youth involved in Dream Builders. So what's the best way to reach out and connect with you?
You can either follow me on Facebook, Neal Richardson, Neal. Some people spell it Neil, but it's Neal is the right way to spell Neal. Richardson on Facebook. And then you can email me as well at neal@dreambuilders4equity.org, and connect with me there and send me an email. But I love connecting with people. I love talking with people about my story, because it's a great reminder to me of how far I've come, because sometimes when you're dealing with the battles and the struggles of the day, you forget of how far God has brought you in order to be in the position that you are at today. So I love talking about my story, and then I also love mentoring other people, because when I'm mentoring, I'm actually mentoring myself. And sometimes I'm talking to myself about, these are things that you should be doing. I'm like, I need to be doing it too.
Hey, you're considering other people. It's like, okay, let me take my own advice, right?
Right, exactly. Exactly. So it's, again, I love, again, talking about my story, telling my story, and then also mentoring others and being mentored too. So I think that's very critical piece to growth in life, is being able to give, but also be willing to listen and receive knowledge too. And sometimes that's more important than anything, is to just stop and listen and be humble.
Yes. Great words to end our conversation with. I'm so just honored and excited that we had a chance to have this quick chat today. I know that it's going to inspire those that are watching and listening, and, you know, hopefully they'll take action, right? And to do what they can in their own circle of influence to help move our community forward. So Neal Richardson, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I look forward to connecting with you in person soon, hopefully once this crisis, this pandemic is over. So thank you so much. Good seeing you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
The Bizperation Personal Think Tank Journal is now available. Did you know that your creativity is a valuable asset based on this? How you think determines how you thrive. The Bizperation Journal exercises the key thinking skills that make goal-getters successful. Get your copy today from Amazon or receive an autographed copy from the Bizperation.com website. We know that there are lots of podcasts that you could have chosen to listen to, so thanks for choosing ours. Go ahead and subscribe now so that you don't miss any episodes.